请收看《唯心世界义工利人天》。
In the interest of keeping the time, I will start with session 9A on ritual and community, which has very different papers on, I would say, different subjects. And the first one is about eating and drinking, which is always good, and Be Solemn, Taoist Ritual Food and World Economy by Professor Terry Kleeman. So the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I want to begin by thanking Weixin Shengjiao for putting on this wonderful conference and for everyone involved in organizing it, and especially for all of these wonderful young people who have been helping us out all through the conference. Because that really makes such a difference. So one of the ways that human beings interact with the environment in a most concentrated way actually is by the creation and consumption of food and drink. And I think that has consequences for a lot of things in our world, including ultimately world ecology. Taoism has an unique take, I think, on food and drink and especially the ritual consumption of food. And what I'm going to be talking about today is these attitudes toward food and ritual eating, ritual feasting, perhaps, during the early Taoist church from its inceptions up until about the Tang dynasty, so about the first 700-800 years of its existence, I think. So Lao Tzu originally opposed valuing external objects over your own person. And in the commentary to this passage, the Xiang'er says, if you act according to the intention of the Tao, not cherishing your person, not seeking glory and ease, not eating and drinking extravagantly, dressing shabbily and traveling incognito, such a person will certainly come to possess the empire through inaction, Wu Wei. By preserving simplicity and purity, he accords with the intention of the Tao. So Lao Tzu originally opposed valuing external objects over your own person. And in the commentary to this passage, the Xiang'er says, if you act according to the intention of the Tao, not cherishing your person, not seeking glory and ease, not eating and drinking extravagantly, dressing shabbily and traveling incognito, such a person will certainly come to possess the empire through inaction, Wu Wei. By preserving simplicity and purity, he accords with the intention of the Tao. Now, one of the particular focuses of early Taoism was sacrifice. Sacrifice is a very ancient practice in China. It began at least in the Shang dynasty, quite possibly earlier. It involves the offering of food and drink to ancestors and spirits. The spirits are thought to partake of these offerings through the scent, but in the process infuse the offerings with blessings, 福气. And these blessings can then be shared with members of the family and close friends through a communal ritual banquet. And that's why banqueting is so important in China, and that's why we get fed such great food every night. So we should be thankful for that. But Taoism strongly opposed sacrifice. They said the Taoist gods do not eat or drink, so they do not need sacrifice. 神不饮食. Gods who accept sacrifice, on the other hand, are little better than demons. They're dependent on human beings, and they consume filthy stuff like bloody dead animals and things like that. Taoism instead posited 3 offices, 3 government bureaus, heaven, earth, and water, to control all of these blood-eating spirits. And as long as the Sanguan control them, it's fine. The problem is when they get out of the control of the 3 offices, and then they wreak havoc on the world. Okay. The Xiang'er commentary specifically condemns sacrifice because Taoist citizens, members of the Taoist church, who keep their precepts, this is the most important thing in early Taoism, maintaining your precepts, the commandments, do not need to seek fortune through sacrifice. Moreover, sacrifice is polluting. Pollution was a major concern in early Taoism. They say, the correct rituals of heaven do not lie in sacrificing and lustrating, to pray and entreat. For this reason, the Tao has prohibited sacrificing and lustrating to pray and entreat, and responds to it with severe punishment. Right? And a man of the Tao will refuse to consume anything that has ever been sacrificed to one of these lower level spirits. Another important early text was the Xuandu Liyuan, the Statutes of the Mysterious Capital. It is a collection of these precepts from the early church. The text as we have it now is not necessarily all that early, but it was cited very early, so it must have been in existence, and I think the portions I'm citing are early portions. One is an example of a sunset offering. You must not eat the food from a sunset offering. We don't even know what this is. This is a popular practice that fell out of use centuries ago, but it was obviously of concern to the early Taoist church that you not participate on. If you offend against this statute, you will be fined 1,000 days worth of counters. In other words, your lifespan will be shortened by something like 3 years. Okay, and then again, Taoist priests and female officers all must not permit the citizens to make sacrificial offerings to the spirits, killing pigs and goats with words of sorcery and confusing talk. Okay. Now, another major feature of the early church was the 3 assemblies, 3 communal meetings of people in each parish on the 7th day of the 1st month, 7th day of the 7th month, and 5th day of the 10th month. It was believed on these dates the heavenly spirits of the Tao actually descended into each local parish of the church simultaneously. I don't know what that's called, but I'm sure people here know multiple manifestations at the same time, and ate a communal meal. They would do a series of things at these meetings. They would update the family records to make sure that we know exactly who's in the church and what they're doing. They would discuss the conduct of citizens and decide rewards and punishments. And they would provide a Taoist banquet, a kitchen. Now, this is different from a sacrificial banquet. That's important to note. It's vegetarian. It does include alcohol, but only in limited amounts. And because the Taoist gods themselves are present, you have to be solemn and respectful throughout it. No carousing like we were doing last night. So it says, on the auspicious days of the assemblies, The male and female officers come face to face with the celestial spirits, teach and convert the foolish and profane, distribute merit and virtue, and cause humans and spirits to respond to each other. But recently, the officers kill and cook domestic animals. This is the most important line for me. To kill the living in search of life is to depart far from life. Okay, one explanation for why there is this specific prohibition on sacrifice. Taoist citizens and Taoist priests all had a very diverse internal microcosmic body that contained many spirits. Even a normal Taoist citizen would get 9 perspective spirits together with a special talisman. Then as you start progressing through the church hierarchy, you get 1 general register, which gives you 1 general, 20 clerks like non-com officers, and 100 soldiers. By the time you get a full register of 150 generals, that's 150 generals, 3,000 clerks, and 15,000 troops under your personal command. Now the problem is, these are troops that you can use to quell demons or to safeguard an area or things like that. But at the same time, they are watching you and noting all of your actions and misdeeds. So if you do things like eating food from sacrifice, the soldiers might just leave and leave you unprotected, or they might actually decide to punish you themselves. And so that's one of the reasons why you really need to avoid sacrifice or anything that has to do with sacrifice. You can't even go by a place where people have been doing sacrifice. Okay. Now, that's the situation in the early church. I found a very interesting Dunhuang manuscript that also talks about Taoist prohibitions on food and eating. The Lao Tzu Shuo Fa Shi Jin Jie Jing, prohibitions and precepts for ritual foods spoken by Lao Tzu. This is dated perhaps to the late 6th dynasties or the beginning of a Tang, brought back by Paul Pelliot at the beginning of the 20th century. And it has some parallels in existing texts, but this text as it is does not exist, was never transmitted to modern days. We only have this one manuscript copy of it. And here are some similar later texts that might be related. In this text, the narrator himself is Lao Tzu, who is said to be endowed with an immortal body. And the method that he recommends is that you should embrace the Tao, accumulate virtue, protect the spirits, and do no evil. That's just sort of the general moral of the group. But eating and drinking, according to this scripture, are key to longevity. It says, the reason why people die early and suffer many maladies, die during ill-fated periods, and are able to leave out the heavenly ordained longevity is because they do not observe the prohibitions and precepts. They give free rein to their emotions and desires, giving birth and killing without limits, and eating and drinking irresponsibly. Now, in this scripture, Lao Tzu sets out 5 ritual food groups: qi, medicine, grains, fruits, and vegetables, and gives a short description of each one, which I'll read now. Pneumas referred to the guiding and pulling of pneumas, embryonic breathing, exhaling stale and inhaling fresh pneumas, breathing the primordial essence, and regulating the 6 pneumas. A lot of this sounds like what Livia was talking about yesterday in one of the methods of cultivation, something like modern Qigong. Medicine refers, of course, to the herbal elements of Chinese medicine, but also to the minerals used to create divine elixirs. So medicines refers to golden jade, fungal blossoms, yellow essence, goji berries, even those are popular now, white atractilis, Pine and cedar seeds, which regulate the body and fluids, protect and nurture the body and its spirits, settles the cloud souls and steadies the resolve, driving out wetness and wind. These are external environmental factors that can cause disease, adding to one's lifespan and one's years. Staples is the way I've translated gu. It mostly means grain, but not only that. Staples refers to broom corn and foxtail millet, hemp and water caltrop, rice and paddy rice, and the various beans. So if you harvest and consume them according to ritual, they will fill your viscera and storehouses, preserve your pneumas, and harmonize your body. Fruits refers to jujubes, chestnuts, and various fruits and nuts, and vegetables to the flowers and leaves of plants and trees that are edible. Harvest them according to the season. I think that's important. Okay, there is some ritual preparation for this. First, the eating is supposed to occur at the proper time, and this may be a bit surprising. You are only supposed to eat during a period of living pneumas, or yang pneumas, and that is from midnight until mid-morning. So midnight until maybe 10:30, 11 in the morning. That's when you're supposed to eat, only then. And you should also precede any eating with a ritual. Pay reverence to all the gods and repent your faults. When eating, you should maintain pure quiescence, Chang-Cheng. This is actually a ritual state of mind that the early Taoists advocated. Acknowledge the Taoist Trinity and all the deities. Visualize the three ones, the three highest deities of Taoism, the three pures, and five gods of the viscera, your five primary organs. Once seated comfortably, one should swallow breaths and eat. So there's also this consumption of qi, along with the physical objects in the meal. Now, there's certain rules for eating. Chinese society at the time was quite conservative. Men and women should not eat together. You shouldn't share plates with anyone. You shouldn't bump into one of the fellow guests. You shouldn't try to pick out the best parts of the food. You know, when it comes around, you know, it's just not improper. And you should never get up in the middle of the meal either. There's rules that make it really hard to eat with non-Taoists, because you have to maintain this attitude of pure quiescence, and these non-Taoists will keep talking to you and stuff. Don't allow those not of our faith to pollute or mix in. And Taoist priests should eat the quality of food appropriate to their station. Do not lust after delicious flavors. So that's sort of interesting. You know your position in society and don't try to exceed it. There are also some practical concerns that you see that modern hygienists might agree with. Gargle before eating. Don't eat pasta or rice that fell into the dirt. Don't eat grain contaminated by passing birds. Don't eat from unclean vessels. Don't eat food that's not in season, that's not seasonal. But there's also some that are based on ritual identity. So if you're a Taoist, you shouldn't eat food from a family that's in mourning, that has recently experienced a death in the family, or someone has just given birth. Both of these involve death and blood, and they're polluting. You shouldn't eat the food of robbers or the dissolute, things like that. You should not eat food sacrificed to temple spirits. We're coming back to that again. That remains a rule through most of Taoist history. Do not eat defiled wine, meat, or mushrooms. This is a little bit of a puzzler. Does it mean only certain types of wine and meat, or does it mean all wine and meat? Something we might discuss. Do not eat food defiled by children or women, and do not eat the food of non-believers. Okay, I'm getting close. So some of this ritual eating has ecological implications, I would argue. Excess food, it said, should be given to the animals or the poor. It should be redistributed. You shouldn't take it back home as leftovers, which is the common practice nowadays. You should avoid extravagant and rare foods, which you can see are possibly damaging to the world. And a Taoist before eating should always ask, is there someone who needs this food more? Because Taoists can always get by consuming pneumas, qi, breath, but other people need food. So a Taoist priest, when he's about to eat, if they see a person who possesses the Tao, they should give the food to them. If they see a worthy person, they should first give the food to them. If they see someone aged or infirm, they should first give food to them. If they see someone is hungry or cold, they should first give food to them. If they see a ritual master, they should first give it to them. We have lots of fasher in the religion. We might never get to eat anything if we were here, huh? So, so ultimately, this is all summed up. Lao Tzu promises positive outcomes if you follow these rules. If Taoist priests, whenever eating, can maintain these prohibitions and precepts, never offending against them, then the various heavens will extend the years and increase the fate counters of that person, augmenting their clothing and food, so that for generation after generation they will flourish and thrive, and will eternally enjoy this spontaneously. So longevity and eternal spontaneity. So just to make a quick conclusion, the basic principles of Taoist ritual eating: you should eat only at the appropriate time of day. You should eat in a state of pure quiescence. Again, this is what we say wu wei, non-action. Eat only after expressing reverence to the deities, both in attendance and inside one's own body. Later, you should also include the consumption of pneumas and elixirs that probably wasn't part of the earliest church, but as we saw by the end of the 6 dynasties or Tang, sort of medieval times, it is part of the practice. Avoid food offered for sacrifice, including, I think, all meat. It seems that the early Taoists, at least, were really vegetarians at a time when the Buddhists were not. So what does that say for vegetarianism in China? And of course, you should avoid all contaminated food. So I do think that we see some overlap here with our own modern concerns about the fate of the world. Like the prohibition on meat and the avoidance of killing are all both compassionate, but also save resources for the world. And the advocacy of local, seasonal, undefiled food and a vegetarian diet, I think would be considered positive by a lot of people around the world today. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation.
So, thank you very much, particularly for telling me I am in breach of most of the Taoist rules about eating and will not achieve longevity, but I will not hold this against you. Okay. So, with this sad comment, I will pass to the next speaker, Dr. Hong Chang-Cheng, who will talk about lamp lighting at Taoist altars in Taiwan.
Thank you for everyone, and 唯心圣教, and let me give me a chance to talk about my new research. This research was always held in north of Taiwan, and the city, Tainan City. Now First, I introduce this ritual who need the 药网餐. During this ritual, during the funeral in Tainan and other part of Taiwan, Taoist priests or monk are invited to perform the religious ritual of worship the god of medicine, so-called 拜药王. Some people believe that only commit suicide in the past. In the past, some people believe that only those who commit suicide by taking poison need to worship God of medicine. And some people believe that people who die from long-term illness need to worship the God of medicine. But currently, funeral in Thailand no longer differentiate between those who die of poisoning or those who die of illness. They all use the method of worshiping the God of medicine to help the disease that lead to a healthy journey to the other world.